Good morning. Just working out all the technicalities. I did one broadcast. Well, I thought it was a broadcast, and it didn't go live. So here we are trying again. I'm so sorry for the delay, but yeah, please forgive me. I'm the Reverend Bonnie Evans Hills. I'm an Anglican priest. I have permission to officiate in the Diocese of Liverpool, but I'm also beginning my ministry in a church in Scotland. It's St. Margaret, Queen of Scotland Church in Leven in Fife. And I'm starting that from a distance. So we're all facing some very strange challenges these days. I think right now, here in the UK, we're just getting through that first kind of shock of being in isolation, and things are starting to come home to us. And so a lot of my reflection today is maybe not so comfortable. I think we're figuring out what our priorities are in life. So my thoughts for today are kind of following that thread. I hope that they help each of us. I think doing the reflection has helped me to pull together some of my own priorities as well. Anyway, the first sharing that I have is from a post made by a good friend of mine, Simona Cruciani. She works for the United Nations, and she shared it on Facebook. It's a translation of a poem by David Grossman. When the epidemic ends, it's not to rule out that there are those who won't want to go back to their previous life. The awareness of the fragility of life will encourage men and women to set new priorities, to distinguish better between what is important and what is futile, to understand that time and not money is the most precious resource. Who, if he can, will leave a job that has suffocated and oppressed for years? Who will decide to abandon family, say goodbye to spouse or partner, to bring a child into the world, or not wanting children, coming out? There will be those who will start believing in God and who will stop believing in him. There will be those who for the first time will question themselves about the choices made, about sacrifices and compromises, on the loves he didn't dare to love, about the life he didn't dare to live. One of the Psalms from this morning is Psalm 37. Now it's quite a long psalm, so I'm not going to read the whole of it, but I am going to share a portion of it. And I'm using a translation by Nan Merrill, and she's using inclusive language that she feels is more relevant to the world today, or at least for English speakers. And this version was given to me by a good friend, Anna Basata, in a former parish of mine, Kimpton with St. Lawrence, and it's a very precious gift. So this is from Psalm 37. In a little while, those who live with greed will prosper no more. The darkness of ignorance will pass, as new dawn enlightens the world. The lovers of darkness shall perish, while the humble shall inherit the earth and find delight in sharing its abundance with all. Those who are greedy plot against the weak, those without worldly power, and rationalize their selfish deeds. The beloved watches patiently, knowing they will stumble and have to face their own downfall. Those with power make war, despoiling nations, killing the poor and innocent, murdering in the name of peace. Oh, if only they knew that their greed will kill their own spirit, their hearts will be broken. How much better is the little of those who know love, than the abundance of the greedy ones. For the spirit of the selfish will be broken, while those who live in love shall dwell with love. Now much of this portion from Psalm 37 has coloured my reflections on the Bible reading. What we have today is from the book of Exodus, chapter 3, and this is after Moses has run away from the Pharaoh and found some peace and respite in setting up a family, and working for his family and being a shepherd. So from Exodus, beginning at chapter 3. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this great sight and see why the bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. He said, Here I am. Then he said, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. He said further, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians, and to bring them out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppress them. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He said, I will be with you, and this shall be my sign for you, that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain. I know, however, that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders that I will perform in it. After that, he will let you go. I've never been someone who believes in a God of vengeance. Not in the sense of, if we don't obey the traditions of our religious institutions, then we are to be punished. No, I rather believe in a patient God who, as a loving parent, seeks to gather us under their wing, as a mother hen gathers her chicks. This is a parent that warns us of the dangers of the world we live in. There's much blessing in fire, for warmth, to cook our food, to provide light. But of course there's danger too, if we do not tend the fire carefully. A parent can warn their child to beware, to not get too close, not to stick their hand in the fire. But every now and then curiosity can get the better, and even the most watchful parent can't prevent a child from suddenly sticking their hand out and getting burnt. We burn ourselves. We burn our own bodies. We burn our families. We burn our homes. We burn our cities. We burn our nations. We burn the world. It's not the vengeance of an angry parent, nor even neglect. Due warning has been given, but sometimes we just can't help ourselves. When I read today's lessons, I asked myself, who are the people of Israel, enslaved by Pharaoh today? And who are the Egyptians in the story? In all our wrestling with a perceived migrant issue here in Europe, we've watched as certain people are devalued, their offering to our nations not considered vital enough to be in service. In the UK, unless you have a high-income job, your labour's been considered unnecessary. And we have watched as that concept has been turned on its head by the virus. The very people we depend on now are those who stack our shelves, who plant and harvest our food, who deliver much needed food and medicine to those stuck in isolation. They are nurses and cleaners, doctors and carers. They are funeral directors and teachers. These are the roles we have increasingly undervalued and yet find ourselves so dependent upon now. Without them, the hunger and pain and death of pestilence such as that sent upon the Egyptians would soon become daily life. And there's another group too that I can't help but think about, who are those who we have so devalued that we confine them to what are in effect concentration camps, and yes, I use that word purposefully. They have no access to food, clean water, sanitation, medicine, decent shelter, education for their children. Sometimes they are trafficked for slavery. These are the people who have escaped war and violent conflict, oppression and natural disaster, and have sought refuge on safe shores. And it is us who have confined them in places where they grow sick and weak and die. This is what we have done. We have left them nowhere to run, nowhere to find refuge. And we've been doing this increasingly for decades. But in recent years, that number has become unprecedented. We've not yet learned that the health, welfare, and safety of each and every one of us depends upon our ensuring the health, welfare, and safety of one another. We were given the commandment to love God and to love our neighbour, and this is everything. As a humanity, we have violated this most sacred of our Creator's loving instruction, to love one another. And there are consequences for us disobeying that commandment. For we all share one world. We are in one boat. Without pulling together, without rowing together as one people in one direction, we are dead in the water. We've become too comfortable in our privilege. We are the Egyptians at the time of Pharaoh, and we are facing a reckoning of our own selfish making. A virus is just a virus. How we respond is in our hands. Now, to conclude, I'd like to share two prayers. One is long and one is short. The first one is by Kate Compston. O God, who am I now? Once I was secure in familiar territory, in my sense of belonging, unquestioning of the norms of my culture, the assumptions built into my language, the values shared by my society. But now you've called me out and away from home, and I do not know where you are leading. I'm empty, unsure, uncomfortable. I have only a beckoning star to follow. Journeying God, pitch your tent with mine, so that I may not become deterred by hardship, strangeness, doubt. Show me the movement I must make toward a wealth not dependent on possessions, toward a wisdom not based on books, toward a strength not bolstered by might, toward a God not confined to heaven, but scandalously earthed, poor, unrecognized. Help me to find myself as I walk in others' shoes. The second prayer is a traditional prayer of Breton fishermen that I felt was appropriate for this page. It is short. Dear God, be good to me. The sea is so large, and my boat is so small. Amen. So thank you for joining me in these thoughts this morning. As we go throughout our day, I hope that we can keep one another in our prayers and consider how best that we can love one another as humanity and to find our real priorities in life. God bless you all, and I look forward to joining you tomorrow morning. Not me leading, but somebody else. Anyway, God bless, and thank you all for listening.